styles make fights. I think more than ever we can all agree that this is a 100% fact. Like, there's no denying that after everything that's happened in the past couple months. First, we had Hamza versus Sean. Big upset. Now we have Ilya versus Gaethje. That's arguably an even bigger upset. It's been a recurring theme this year. You have a star with a bunch of hype surrounding them. They get their style completely shut down by their opponent because they find a way to heavily exploit its weaknesses with their own style. I think that we're going to see another example of this during Kyoji Horiguchi versus Manel Kape. I believe I may have spotted a genuine stylistic flaw, which will decide how this fight is going to play out. So bear with me. At the end of the day, if you disagree with any of my takes, feel free to comment, since I'd love to see different opinions, and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more UFC content. Now, firstly, we gotta go all the way back to 2017, which is where Kape and Kyoji basically fought for the first time, right? That fight started off very fast, like very, very fast. A lot of exchanges between the two, a lot of striking. But in practically no time, the fight starts going in Kyoji's favor because he lands a massive right hand that just completely wobbled Kape hard. To recover, he starts grappling, gives himself time. But you need to keep that right hand in mind, because that's going to be very important to what I'm going to be trying to say in this video. You see, something I noticed about Kape is that he is almost robotic with his focus. When he focuses on defense, especially when he's trying to be, very showboaty every now and again. He likes to showboat, put his hands behind his back, taunt his opponent every now and again, dare them to hit him. Kape is one of those fighters that likes to every now and again showboat. But he doesn't compromise himself that much. When he's focused on defense purely, he is very elusive. But he doesn't get much offense off. On the other hand, when he's focused on offense, he's very dangerous. He also is prone to make a lot of defensive mistakes. And the biggest thing I notice is how comfortable he starts to get when he's on offense. If you really pay attention to his fight with Kyoji and two of his last 3 fights, there is always a moment in which he gets lazy with his guard, especially on his lead side. When he's on offense, he gets really comfortable. And that lead hand, it's been such an issue. You see, there is an opening with that lead hand that keeps on showing up so many times. And Kyoji caught onto it in that fight very quickly. Here's some examples. And this kept happening so many times. I mean, so many times. And I mean, you just saw the amount of times that he got hit on that lead side by something big. Most of the time it was an overhand. And he was getting cracked in that fight, man. It would always happen whenever he would get a bit lazy with his guard. He'd go ahead and start his offense. Maybe he'd throw something and get caught in between, or maybe he would be settling, trying to think, what am I gonna follow up with next? And the next thing you know, Kyoji just completely timed perfectly. I mean, Kape was about to throw a lead uppercut, but Kyoji just completely caught him at the right moment and hit him straight on the chin. Kape goes down. This eventually just forced Kape to start getting a lot more defensive. He was getting hit a lot. He had to protect himself. And then that's where Kyoji just completely snatched up a takedown because his legs were left vulnerable now, that his hands were raised. From there, Kyoji just completely worked his way slowly to a submission, This brings up another point, okay? The Gooch, right? The Gooch is simply better on the ground than Kape. I well and truly believe that he is just simply better on the ground than Kape. And that's not me saying that Kape isn't good on the ground. He is good on the ground. But I like... Something I really remember from one of his fights is that I like that from the bottom, he likes to set up submissions to set up for his get-ups. When he wants to stand up, sometimes he'll start threatening submissions on his opponents. That makes their opponents worried about not getting submitted, and then next thing you know, he scrambles. And in that fight against Kyoji, he was scrambling. He did really well, But Horiguchi, in my opinion, is simply just a better grappler. There was just There's just so many things that he has on the ground. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself that surely after so many years, Kape has to have fixed that hole in his game. And to you, I would tell you that you're somewhat partly correct. After all, Kape, he's a professional. He's going to improve after many years. Every single one of his fights is going to add to his experience. It's going to refine his style. But in this case, I think that the adjustment has come in quite late. You see, in 2 of his last 3 fights, he has shown that while he has significantly improved his game, when it comes to that issue with his lead hand, he still kind of has it, you see. Like, he has improved it a bit. It is a bit closer now to where he can kind of react better when he's being attacked from his lead side. But even then, there's still a lot of moments where when he's more focused on offense and he's not really thinking about that, about what's coming his way much. That's when his opponents start to kind of catch him a bit, especially on that lead side. They start landing some good hits. Now, usually they're not as effective. Maybe that's just because Kape, maybe he's just really durable and they don't have as much pop as Kyoji, maybe. I mean, there's definitely a speed difference. Kyoji is very fast compared to them. But I don't know, even then there's just some sort of ingredient that they've been missing that Kyoji was kind of able to have. And I think that ingredient might be timing, you know. Kyoji had a really good timing on Kape in that fight. He really had that opening down and was catching him in some pretty crucial moments. Like right when Kape was about to throw, he would throw something massive his way that would just catch him. But now here's where things get interesting. Because I bet you guys think by now that I believe Kyoji was going to knock out Kape with that opening. But that's where you're wrong. You see, I actually believe that Kyoji is going to use that opening to take Kape to the ground and submit him, just like in their first fight. Let me explain. If we look at Kape in his last fight with Brandon Royval, he came into that fight with a much more defensive stance. More defensive than any of his other fights. He was keeping his hands much higher and answering the phone with his rear side, you know. Like, he was also incredibly patient. This made it a lot harder for Royval to really find any openings to attack. And Kape showed some great defense. He was parrying kicks, he was blocking shots, he was kind of, just really stalking. And that ended up paying off because eventually he just stalked and pressured Royval into a corner. And then when he went on the attack, boom, he catches Royval right on the chin with his right hand, just flatlines him. Now, as great a performance as that was, there's still a lot of things about that stance that I just can't feasibly see Kyoji exploiting. Of course, it's great for defending his head and parrying kicks, but it leaves a massive opening in his legs. You see, he has it high up. Something that was really good about his stance before was that since he had his hands quite low, it was a lot easier for him to maybe get underhooks if somebody shot a takedown on him. So now that he's going with this more defensive stance, I believe that Kyoji, he's going to see that opening in his legs, and I think that he is going to snatch up a takedown and start working him on the ground. And this is where my theory starts. Kyoji is in every sense of the word an artist. I know that may sound like glaze, okay? But after this video, I want you to watch his most recent MMA fights. I want you to analyze yourself and tell me in the comments why that isn't a fact. The guy is phenomenal at striking and grappling. He has very little weaknesses, and I have yet to find any that can feasibly harm him in this fight. He is super fast. He can mix up everything. The guy, genuinely, he mixes the arts. He is a mixed martial artist, man. And because of that, I believe he is stylistically a bad matchup for Kape due to just the number of weapons at his disposal. I don't see Kape's style being able to deal with all of them. If he takes a defensive approach, like he did with Royval, I can see Kyoji snatching up a takedown, working him on the ground. If he switches to offense, his lead side might open, and Kyoji can time his right hand, at which point I can see where Kape tries to employ both styles by alternating, only to see that each time he plugs one defensive hole, he then opens up another defensive hole. And it's probably going to be something like that where, just his style, there's so many things that Kyoji can do, and I don't think Kape is going to be able to defend all of them. Now, of course, this all requires several factors to come into play. For all I know, Kyoji could just get chinned by a hit he doesn't see coming, you know. But you know, of course, MMA is unpredictable. All I know is that from my point of view, this doesn't look like a good match for Cap. It really doesn't. Either way, here's a playlist of all the tape I watched to make this video. And if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe and comment your own takes to help me improve the next one. See ya.